West African states have given the coup leaders in Niger a one-week ultimatum to give up power. The president of neighbouring Chad has travelled to Niger in a bid to resolve the crisis. ECOWAS, a bloc of 15 African states, is threatening to use force if Niger's ousted elected president is not reinstated. But public sympathy appears to favour the coup leaders.
Days after Niger's army ousted its democratically elected leader, thousands took to the streets of the capital, Niamey. Many of them supporters of the coup, gathered outside the French embassy, a former colonial power.
People are suffering. Nigerians shouldn't be living like this. People are coming out to support the putschists because they are here to bring balance to the country.
But the situation soon turned violent. Protesters smashed windows, set fire to the gates of the embassy, and warned against foreign interference in their internal affairs.
I would like also to say to the European Union, African Union, and ECOWAS, please stay out of our business.
The Army General and head of the Presidential Guard, Abdurrahman Chiani, removed President Mohamed Bazoum from power and declared himself as the new head of state. The ousting triggered widespread condemnation from the international community. Leaders of West African states held an emergency summit. The bloc agreed to suspend ties with Niger and threatened military action.
In the event the authorities' demands are not met within 1 week, take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Such measures may include the use of force.
The army says it took over to bring order to Niger. Its spokesman issued this warning.
We remind ECOWAS once more of our firm determination to defend our country.
Meanwhile, the African Union issued an ultimatum to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum, who is being held captive. The EU and France suspended aid and financial ties with Niger. And this marks the 7th coup in the Sahel region since 2020. Finding a solution to the political uncertainty is growing ever more urgent.
Our correspondent Olisa Chukwumah is following developments from Lagos in neighbouring Nigeria. Is this going to work, do you think, what ECOWAS is doing?
Well, that is the big question, because as we speak, it's a countdown to the 7-day ultimatum given by ECOWAS in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, yesterday. So ECOWAS is talking tough. There's been measures from ECOWAS. They've closed the all land and air borders with the country Niger and other West African states. They've also given huge financial sanctions and restrictions to Niger, just basically trying to cut Niger off from the rest of the world and the West of Africa. Will it be enough? Well, they've also threatened, just like we said in the report, perhaps a possible military intervention. The use of force is the term which is very rare from the ECOWAS bloc, but that is a very strong message from ECOWAS, as we've seen yesterday, for perhaps to get a U-turn on the military junta in Niger.
What about the efforts of Chad's president, Idriss Déby, who's in Niger?
And that's an additional effort, you have to say. He was perhaps on the sidelines with the ECOWAS meeting yesterday, and as perhaps you can see, he's been sent as an envoy to take the resolutions of ECOWAS to Niger's military junta to tell them that this is a resolution from ECOWAS, Chad being also a neighbor. So he's currently in the capital, Niamey, the president of Chad, Mohamed Idriss Déby, and perhaps those are part of the negotiations to go on. But you look at the tactic here from ECOWAS, though they have sent Mohamed Idriss Déby as an envoy to go and mediate, but they've also given us stronger solutions, given a 7-day ultimatum. And don't forget, this comes after even the AU, the African Union, gave Niger junta 15 days, 2 weeks, but ECOWAS is giving them only 7 days. So we might be getting into a deadlock with the situation in Niger.
And then there's also the EU level, and France also suspending ties with Niger. Will pressure from Western powers have an effect?
that might not really be the case, as we've seen with the likes of Mali and Burkina Faso. Like this is almost like a seventh coup in the region in West Africa. We also got Guinea in West Africa, who's also under military junta. So it's the threats from Western governments and sanctions have not been effective in the last couple of years, since 2020, since this series of coups have been happening and coup initiatives. But maybe the folks from ECOWAS needing to lead the fray, that might be a bit of a sway. We have seen even this morning on state TV in Niger, the coup spokesperson coming out to say that, France is perhaps trying to intervene militarily, and they've also threatened that ECOWAS should not intervene in their matter. So it's more like perhaps a seriousness of ECOWAS rather than the international body.
And Olisa, what about the role of Russia?
Now, that's quite an interesting one. Now, though Russia does have its perhaps presence via its proxy Wagner in places like the Central African Republic, and many of the coup states like Mali and Burkina Faso have leaned towards Russia since the coups happened. It's not a straightforward, perhaps, get-go that we might be seeing Russian presence or Russian influence there in Niger. Yes, in the protest yesterday, Russian flags were waved and pro-Putin chants were waved by Nigerians in support of the junta. But we're a long way to look at perhaps Niger and having a leaning towards Russia. But clearly, anti-French sentiment and anti-Western sentiment is clearly growing in the region. And we've seen that yesterday with the protest in Niger.
DW correspondent Olisa Chukwumah, thank you very much. Great talking to you.